Welcome to Film Crusade. See, I was actually gonna let you do it that time.
Yeah, I mean, I was almost certain you were going to do it that time, so I was just like, oh, so we're doing this instead, I guess.
Only for Top Gun Maverick. Only time I'll just introduce it. Then if they ever make a sequel, I'll introduce it again.
Hopefully not, because this is a good movie,
It
but
is.
it doesn't need a sequel.
But we are going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick, as you have said.
I think
Did you say that or did
you
I say that?
you
I said
you
that.
said you
Oh
said
my
that.
God. Wow.
This is our third take of this, so like, let's hope this works out. Um, Fun times. Uh,
So, Top Gun Maverick, directed by Joseph Krasinski, the follow-up after
Krasinski, by the way,
Krasinski. Oh my God, what did I just say?
Krasinski.
Krasinski. I want to say Krasinski. Just rolls off the tongue more, you know?
Joseph Krasinski, brother of what's his name, John Krasinski.
John Krasinski? Yeah, just
Right, right.
related right there automatically. People don't know that.
But yes, Kaczynski.
Cousins.
Right, or
It's
Kaczynski.
it is a follow-up to the first Top Gun that came out in 1986. And it's been almost like it's been 3 decades, but it's almost four. We're pushing four there,
Yeah,
which is like damn.
4 years shy of 4 decades.
Yeah. And I gotta say, in terms of sequels, this has to be up there with me for like, 2049.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like this, like, coming back to do a next installment of like a usual, like a cult classic from back in the day.
Yeah, we also had Tron Legacy, also directed by Joseph Kaczynski. Um, and Doctor Sleep, directed by Mike Flanagan, though that one's a bit more divisive between
It
people.
is a great, movie. Just saying.
Yeah, I agree. I
But
like it more than The Shining, but there's people who would
I
disagree with
agree.
that.
No, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, you and I agree on that, and few other people do. Um, Anyhow, not that we're reviewing Doctor Sleep, though the Midnight Club comes out on Netflix soon. They're all pumped. Um, Subtitles for YouTube: Midnight Club is the new Mike Flanagan show, and Ethan is a huge Mike Flanagan fan. So great. Refer to myself in the third person. Awesome. But Top Gun Maverick, yes, the long awaited, was it awaited? Sequel to the original Top Gun, which Ahmari and I are kind of similar in our thoughts, though I am way more forgiving of movies because I just love watching movies way more than Ahmari does.
I'm more critical, which not for this one. This one was actually really,
Yeah.
really great. But
But the original Top Gun is definitely one of the least good Tony Scott movies, in my opinion. Um, I still have a couple to see, like Revenge, starring my least favorite actor, and what's his name? Oh, the other Denzel I have of Man on Fire. Those are the last two Tony Scotts I have to see, and I'm certain I'm at least going to like Man on Fire more than I like Top Gun. Anyhow, while also being a great homage to the original, which you think about all the different fan service moments from the original, they're so small compared to the actual feature, and it plays more as a melodrama rather than a action movie, which I think is part of the reason why you and I ended up more disappointed with the original.
yeah, it was definitely mismarketed for us just because a lot of people would tell us like, oh, it's like this, oh, talk you gotta watch Top Gun. This like has the one-liners. It's like, there's gonna be like, dog fights and all this is gonna be crazy. Like or it's really, really crazy. Like you guys have to see it. And then, like Ethan said, it's just a melodrama with like people having existential crisis moments.
Yeah.
And a somewhat, as you put it, by the numbers kind of plot, which is just, or story of like, the asshole turned into not the asshole anymore, to like,
Yeah, slightly less of an asshole. And he was mainly an asshole because he knew he was talented, and he's still talented by the end of the thing. But he's also coped with loss and coped with maybe he isn't the best in the world, that kind of thing. So he can get over himself a little bit. And Top Gun Maverick follows 3 decades after roughly the events of the first one, where Maverick, played by Tom Cruise, who has finally acknowledged that he is getting a little bit older, um, is kind of in the same boat as he's been for the past 3 decades, kind of making a lot of risky choices, pissing off his superiors, but still getting to have fun with what he's wanted to do with his life. Um, until finally he's thrust into action by like a call to be a teacher at the Top Gun Academy for a special classified mission. Um, on top of being Tom Cruise starting to realize that he is getting old and playing with that, it ends up being like a great return to the movie theaters and like, hey, this is a mission to save the movies. This is, a heist movie. This is a movie about getting old. This is a movie about finding happiness in people and not in your own actions. Um, this is a very good emotionally based blockbuster that cares more about the characters than it does about, oh, you have to follow the plot this exact way and carbon copy the original to be successful, which it doesn't do that,
no,
thankfully.
yeah, no, it does a lot with what I think 2049 does, which is you have the first one, but you're just expanding on things, and you're kind of
Yeah,
just you're updating things, and you're kind of seeing what the first one did and how you could amplify that to help out the sequel. And I think with, at least for me, with Maverick, it's, yeah, no, like there's a lot of great themes in there that they do juggle with, and there's a nice balance between action packed and your more, serious moments, and when you have drama between characters. And it's so, it just does such a great job with that, honestly. Like that script is so damn good and it's so damn strong. And
yeah,
I couldn't help but get like emotional with some scenes because they do inject a lot of real world things that do happen. Like for instance, like, you do see the return of Val Kilmer's character, Iceman. um
yeah,
and that that scene particularly, like that was just so well done and so well handled. But they do incorporate, what was going on in, like, in Val Kilmer's actual life.
yeah,
There's a, like, unfortunate things have happened to him physically that he's not able to really go into acting anymore.
yeah,
And so kind of take a step back. And I think this movie does a great job of, like, honoring that, but also kind of, giving you moments of just, yeah, these are actual real people that are dealing with
yeah,
these things. And I think the biggest theme, what Ethan touched upon, was like, yeah, people are, like, getting old sucks. Like
yeah,
it really does. And you see Maverick, like, because in the first one, I was like, okay, yeah, he's Tom Cruise, he's doing his Tom Cruise thing, whatever. Like he's young Tom Cruise.
yeah,
Where this one is, he's seasoned Tom Cruise. So he's like, you've seen a lot of films by him and stuff, and by that point, and you know how he is as an individual. And it seems as though this one, and hopefully the Death Reckoning, Mission Impossible, the next one, Mission Impossible movie, it looks like there's touching upon that. Yeah, no, like characters do get old.
yeah,
And it's kind of like, what do you do when you reach a certain age, and not having a midlife crisis, but you're more kind of like realizing and facing the fact that, death is not around the corner, but death is approaching.
yeah. It's present.
Yeah. And
Um,
yeah, I think it does a great job with those themes.
yeah. It also has gorgeous action, which for a Tony Scott movie, you'd think the original would be wall to wall, great naval air combat, but it really isn't. And of course, it's partially they're sent to the academy with the best pilots, so it is about training in the original one, like it is here. But the training was always very laid back and slow going, and here it's exciting, filled to the brim with needle drops. Um, i think Kaczynski got to do with a large budget what Tony Scott probably couldn't have done back in the 80s, partially because technology not being available, such as camera rigs and things of that nature, to place the camera right next to the cockpit and film the actors accurately flying these things.
Which was so badass to see. I was like seeing behind the
Yeah,
scenes footage, or like not even footage, but like just photos of like them strapping the camera down, like actually building rigs for some of these jets is just incredible to see. And knowing the fact that a good chunk of that movie is practical speaks just
yeah,
volumes, honestly. It just shows just how much care these people have for the material.
and just invisible VFX work also that is like
Mm-hmm.
appreciated, like because movies like this and movies like Marvel can't really be made without VFX. So you have to embrace them. And this is one where it would be hard to tell where the practical is, where the VFX cleaning up is, because it's so well integrated. And of course, you brought up the script as what I was saying about all the different themes and such. And this is a Christopher McQuarrie like co-written script. Christopher McQuarrie, who has worked on the last two and is working on the next two Mission Impossible movies with Cruise, as well as The Usual Suspects way back in the day, a movie called The Way of the Gun that I haven't seen, but I've heard great things about. And he's just great with knowing the strengths of Cruise and how to play them there. Um,
And
yeah,
also just writing just really good like action movies. Like
yeah,
these last couple Mission Impossible movies, like 5, 6, and they're now gonna be, 7 and such. Like, yeah, like these have been really strong in terms of like he's getting better at it too. And
mm-hmm.
Maverick is like another piece of that where he was a part of the writing process, as you were saying. And it's filled like you were saying, like when it gets right, you were saying it kind of gets right into like the academy is more compelling, it's a little bit more fast paced, and I think that has to do with the characters that they introduce.
Yeah,
There are new characters here that really just every actor and actress just does such an amazing job like handling them, and everybody kind of feels like their own person, and you
yeah,
kind of get the callbacks to Top Gun between Miles Teller and Glenn Powell. Um,
yeah,
and but at the same time, they're new. They're like they have their own character,
yeah.
their own stuff
And
situation.
you almost think because Miles Teller plays Goose, which spoilers for the first Top Gun. If you haven't seen the first Top Gun, I would not say what are you doing. Just maybe watch it at some point and then watch this one. But Goose being Maverick's old partner from the first one, who unfortunately passes away during the events of the first one. And Miles Teller's character is Rooster, Goose's son. Um, and you'd almost think there would be so many cliche tropes that they could throw at you, like blaming Maverick for his father's death, blaming Maverick for this, becoming the next Maverick, all this kind of stuff. And it just refuses to do any of the typical kind of cliche stuff. Like, yeah, there's tension there, but it's not based in the cliche, you caused my dad to die, I hate you forever kind of crap. Um, where in fact, Glenn Powell's Hangman gets to be like Maverick 2.0 of like the asshole who knows he's really good.
Yeah,
And it means Maverick has to deal with that now being a teacher. Um, you know, lots of those fun key ideas that, of course, now having been in the teaching field and going into the teaching field, a lot of resonant things of like, oh yeah, how do you deal with the people that are like what you were like?
Yeah, and I think
Um,
it does a really really great job with some of those moments. And even and you were saying that like they don't do the cliches with Rooster as a character. Actually, instead they actually take Rooster and kind of like they bring about all the emotional cores of Goose from and they just kind of just like that's like a piece of like of Rooster's character, but at the same time there is something else. If you see from the trailers, there is some tension, so there is something else, but it's not what you think it is.
yeah,
And
and
it's
that's what's clever because when you're watching the trailer, you're like, of course it's that, but it's not that. It's
and I
partially that, I'm sure, because psychologically speaking, but it makes things complicated in the way real life issues are. It's not about, oh, let's fully embrace the melodrama of the first. There's parts of that, sure. Um, you know, we have a lot of different characters with their subplots. John Hamm gets to play the, aggressive admiral who is partially in charge of the program and is very ticked off with Tom Cruise's unorthodox methods of being a trainer. And I mean, I love John Hamm in
I was surprised how much
anything.
he was in
So
the movie. Honestly, I was telling Ethan for a while because he was like, "Yo, John Hamm's gonna be in this movie." And I was like, "He's probably gonna be there for like a scene, maybe." And no,
yeah,
he is in there for a while, which is great. I love John Hamm too. He's a phenomenal
yeah,
actor.
nice
Um,
medium-sized role. Um, it's Cruise's show. Kilmer comes in for a scene, as we mentioned, and it is one of the best scenes of the year still.
Jennifer Connelly
Um,
does
Jennifer Connelly's
is
amazing.
so damn great, and I love that relationship in the movie, just
Mhm.
because I'm like that's such a because I feel like anybody who's had to not deal with, but anybody who's had to have a their parent because she is a mother in this. It's not really much of a
Mhm.
spoiler, but she's a mother in this movie. But
Not very
anybody
much a spoiler at all.
no, but if you've been in that scenario where like, oh yeah, when your parent is gonna go back out dating, you know, there's
Yeah,
these little cute little things that happen during that I think that I couldn't help but just notice that throughout this one, and I was like, that's actually pretty clever and pretty cute actually because yeah, and along with that, there is a like of her having a child. There is a lot of backstory that is not exposition. It's more just again these are characters who have basically lived lives, between the two movies. So you get
yeah,
references to some events that do happen, but but you're not going to be here. They're not going to be like, oh, let's do a whole flashback sequence.
yeah.
This movie doesn't really need that. It
I
really,
think if I remember right, you like get flashes of archive footage and you get like images and things, and that's a very powerful way of doing that rather than just, oh yeah, let's overwhelm people with nostalgia, like let's do the same scene again but with like CGI actors.
yeah. Which I feel like they could have done anyway. Like I mean, they could have gone with it. I think it still would have been fine. But I like the approach here.
Yeah.
That it is just either reference or you do get the archive footage, and that's really really great. And there is one use of that that's actually really really great, and I think it's been everywhere, but it does involve Rooster.
Hmm.
And I think that's really really great because it was one of those moments also that was like the first time I was getting kind of emotional because it's weird because I didn't get emotional in the first Top Gun movie. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I,
did.
I i I felt a little bit of it when it comes to like him dealing with the guilt
Yeah,
post Goose dying, but it's very boilerplate,
yeah,
like by played as plainly as it could be.
yeah.
Where
Where
here
this,
it is like plucking at heartstrings and almost to the point of like, oh yeah, manipulating the audience, but in like a good, reasonable way, not just, oh yeah, let's just manipulate them with fan servicey things. Like, no, let's sneak up on them of like great balls of fire, like that.
yeah, no,
Um,
it's that's just some of the like some strong
and
writing.
it's almost like, and it makes the first one stronger with that of like, oh yeah, you have like they're two pieces that go together. Um, and it's not just obvious moment for obvious moment's sake. It's thought out with these character moments.
Yeah. Also, this does have a third act too that I was not expecting. And I
Yeah.
was and I it because you could the way like the way the second act rolls around and the way it concludes, you would think, okay, that was your movie. You know, we'll go back to have your little epilogue. There you go. Then there's something that then there's an additional thing that happens. And
Yeah.
it's like I thought I was like, damn, that's bold. I thought it was pretty bold because you could
Yeah.
have you could have gone a more conventional route with this. You could have had, you know, your
But
great character.
where would the fun have been in that?
That's true. That again, that's the thing about it.
Like
That would have been like that would have been as fun as
that's one of those touches that you think about it separately and you're like, you could have taken that out. But having it in there is one of the numerous reasons this movie works so well.
and actually it actually does the thing where it actually like just because you think so, yeah, I think what's the word I'm looking for? It's like uh you're not really uh you're shifting the story. I'm forgetting the word for it, but you're pretty much you think
Subverting.
subverting. There we go. You're subverting expectations of like. Thank you so much. I was like, what is that word? I always forget that word. But it does do that. It subverts expectations at the end, but then it just I don't know. It just does such a great job with it too because it's kind of the thing that you need. It's almost like it's a great payoff,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, like you get like this big sigh.
It's like you have the thing that has been marketed to you the entire movie, but then you're given a little bit extra, almost like a dessert kind of thing.
And it's so damn great, and
Um,
it's really great because I honestly speaking, I can't find anything that I don't like about this, like at all. Like
I would only say, in terms of not liking something about it, and even this, like, is a nitpick
maybe some
of
characters,
when I think about that little dessert thing,
yeah.
the way it's done is at first a few moments of faking out the audience, and you don't need that.
I was okay.
And
I was also okay with that because I was like, it's pretty nice actually because you're kind of like, oh, it's gonna go this, but it's like, nah, it's gonna go this other
but
way.
it also, I say that, but then I realize to like try to speak as broadly as possible about this. That you have this entire setup with this of like, oh, this is how it's going to go down. This has never happened before in a movie like this, trying to be as vague as possible. All the things have been set up, like all the pins have been set up to fall this exact way. And then some of them fall the exact way you think they're going to. And then the one pin that they've definitely been setting up the entire time, that doesn't fall. And you're like, oh, awesome, great. I didn't expect that because you really made me think that for
Yeah.
like a couple scenes there.
See, I thought you were gonna say maybe some characters because I think I say that a lot of characters were rated really well and I think all the actors and actresses did a great job, but
I
I
think they
know
all
my
did a
main
great
focus
job. I need to remember certain people's names, like Bill
that's
Pullman's character
yes because
was, or Lewis Pullman is the son, Bill Pullman's the dad. Lewis Pullman is in it, and I forget his character's name. And the girl that he works with, that is a really awesome female pilot. She's awesome too. I can't remember her name right
that's the
now.
one thing about it, because the movie
Um,
I'm so focused on Hangman and Rooster Story, and I'm
yeah,
like, and it's like those characters are
because
there,
those are like kind of the extra ones.
yeah,
Um,
which is I mean I think it's fine. Actually, they're more noticeable to me than the other people in like the first Top Gun movie, where it's
yeah,
just
like there was Iceman, Maverick, Goose, and
sorry, that's okay.
the
That's like a fly here. Sorry if I'm like waving.
Warlock, played by Michael Ironside or whatever.
Mhm.
And then there was also the Tom Skerritt character, who I actually forget his name. Tom Skerritt being the dude who ran the program at the time and
Right. Oh my God.
worked with Maverick's dad, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Tom Skerritt from the original Alien movie.
That's right. That's right. He is in that. See, that's what I mean. It's like you just forget. Like
But all those are like, yeah, they're kind of drawn broadly and not really iconic in any case, where all of these characters are pretty iconic. It's just sometimes the names can
escape.
be missed,
Yeah.
especially it's been however many months since this came out. And you and I only saw it the once, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I have been trying to. I do want to rewatch it again because I want to watch the opening was so that's what hooked me in. Like,
like the B-50.
yes,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
was just gorgeous to I mean, it's not real. Like a lot of that's not real, but like you were saying before, like they do such a great job of integrating the visual effects in there that it's almost seemed like I could have sworn it was real.
Yeah.
But that's
It
the thing.
also kind of reminded me of another movie that we aren't reviewing that is very good. That maybe we'll do a retrospective on this and others for Babylon. But First Man,
Yeah, no, yeah,
um,
exactly reminded me of. I was like, yeah, I was like, well, it looks like First Man. But
very
yeah,
immersive filmmaking, which
it's
is
great.
uh,
Which I mean, which that's the thing about you talking about VFX. That's the thing about the VFX in this movie and just VFX in general. There is this, and not to get like on a soapbox for a second, but like there is a thing where at least a lot of big budgeted movies, mostly a lot of the MCU,
mhm,
um, because even back then the MCU didn't really rely too much on visual effects, like Phase One
yeah.
and stuff like that. But as the years progressed, but there is a need. There is something some studios think, or I wouldn't even I wouldn't even say that even, but there is an over reliance on it. There is a crutch on it. There is but I think that some of the best VFX
But
would
there
have
is also a need that we have to acknowledge that is, for one thing, VFX are very
yeah,
important
they are very
and
important.
a great tool that we should start to use as much as we can for things that, okay, we don't need the real, like, we don't need to put actors in danger anymore.
Yeah, no, no, no,
We
no.
don't need to put, animals in tough situations anymore. We can just, like,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, which
mm,
I mean, if we're able to make talking apes seem so real, I think we can do almost anything at this point.
but we also need to give them time and the credit.
Yeah,
That's the biggest thing right now
time,
that's
like
plaguing
time,
MCU everything.
yeah, like time and a lot of credit and just most importantly, just a lot of time, honestly. And
Yeah.
in really in people who are going to be passionate about it to know when to use it and to see, okay, how much can we do of this that's real? How much can we do of this because practical? And then how can
Yeah.
we, incorporate now we can incorporate the visual effects. Now we can get now and then we can have them we can give them more time to do the effects so it can look, as gorgeous and as beautiful as it needs to be. And I think with Top Gun Maverick does a great job of that balancing because there's a
Mhm.
lot of moments where it is seamless and you don't even realize it. And it's I think Nolan I think has said that he uses CGI or visual effects when it's absolutely necessary.
Mhm.
When he physically can't do something like when he
Yeah.
or they
Which
can't.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily the best approach either, but I
Yeah.
would say that that's better than overworking CGI people
Hmm.
like some studios have done. But yeah, I'm proud of you. I've trained you well. You've now used the phrase, not to get on a soapbox or anything, and
Yeah, no,
I
but it
use
was
that way
yeah. I
too
mean,
much.
that's like the smallest spiel, honestly, about visual effects. I know there's been there has been a giant, outrage about it recently because of well, at least there's been some
Working
working
conditions and
conditions, yeah, and whatnot. And I mean, you can't deny that, it's been you can't deny that it's like yeah, it's a problem. It's a
yeah.
problem, like honestly, like. You can't really deny that. But I think a good thing is just, it's just giving people like time, and and if you care about a project as much as it looks like these people did care about, Maverick and stuff, then you know it's all, then it's all for a great cause, honestly. It's all for a great,
Yeah. Art needs people who can work together well and not just, oh, I need you to get this to me by Friday because we told people it would release on Monday. Um, and I think that's like kind of the big issue of choosing the release date before the movies even started production
yeah.
is that because we have all these Marvel things of like, oh, She-Hulk was supposed to come out back in June or whatever, right? And
Oh, it
then
was. Oh
they had
wow.
to
Oh,
push
that's right.
it
It
back
was.
a few months because the first trailer they released, everyone was like, that's a crappy design for
Oh,
She-Hulk. And they
really?
were like, you guys need to fix this. But if some articles are to believe, they weren't really compensated well or appreciated well for their having to rush through to fix things. Um,
Sorry, that's my cat.
no worries.
But
I can't even hear the cat.
oh,
So
but yeah, no, I think yeah, no, that no, I do agree with you. I thought it actually was supposed to be like a couple. I thought it was like it got pushed back a week. I didn't know if it was like a
I'm
longer.
not 100% sure how, but I know it was pushed back at least a little bit of time
Mhm.
because um, that trailer came out and people were like, ah!
Yeah.
um,
Which I mean, even going back to reception, honestly, like I'm glad that the reception of this movie has been tremendous and it's been so
yeah,
great. And I can't, Hi. And I'm just really surprised, honestly, just how great it's been doing.
yeah,
Like it surprised me as much as Everything Everywhere All at Once.
yeah.
I was
Both of
just like,
those have done really well. Well, everything everywhere all at once has done really well for an A24 movie.
oh
I'll
yeah,
give it
for
that. It
it's
hasn't really done well in terms of like it's made like maybe 1/5 what Doctor Strange 2 made, that kind of thing when you really think about it. But of course, that's how it happens. Is something really good for a studio like that is chump change to a studio like Marvel. Um, but I do think this hopefully starts a trend of people going out to see things that they normally wouldn't see.
safely,
Elvis as well. Elvis
safely.
was like very successful. It still is pretty successful. Um,
But like in safety, I mean, if you're not, I mean, obviously wear a mask. But like
yeah.
out there still and
Um,
stuff, just be safe. But
well, I mean, in terms of like, you know, going out to see things that aren't just like, oh, because
oh yeah,
maskers and anti-maskers all want to go see the latest Marvel movie no matter what. Um,
I know what you mean. Yeah, like the whole like not basically just not
but
going.
diversifying and going to the theater more than 2 or 3 times a year for the latest Marvel thing or Star Wars
Yeah,
thing.
no, I do agree with that.
And Elvis did really well. Top Gun Maverick did really well, and Everything Everywhere All at Once did really well. Um, I guess at some point we're going to have to use this channel to talk about some of those bigger movies, which, yeah, we've watched and will continue to watch because they're there. But
It's also the, at least for me, it's the hope that it's good, like the hope that like maybe it's different, or like there's always that little bit, for me at least, it's always that little bit where it's like maybe this will be great this time, this will be good, or like less than average. That's always been me. I mean, that's me going into like most movies, most, if we're gonna talk superheroes for a second, it's all superhero movies.
yeah,
Like going in there, but
yeah,
yeah, I
you
mean,
pretty much go to everything, and
yeah.
I wait for your recommendation or not. Usually, I know I'm going to go see Black Panther 2. Got to support Ryan Coogler.
Oh yeah, dude, that looks
Um,
gorgeous. Like it's funny. I think someone on Twitter that I follow was like, he was saying, I kind of gave up, or like he says, there's times where I want to give up on the MCU and like I don't want to watch any more MCU movies because of just everything. But then Ryan Coogler pulls out Black Panther 2, and I kind of want to go see it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, because
I gotta rewatch the first one because I did really like the first one the first time I watched it. It just has some familiar plotting. Um, like it is that formula that the MCU has, as you'll hear me mention so many times, people who listen to this, is just like you need to change it. Like diversify it a little bit, and I would be less mad. And also respect your freaking VFX workers. But
oh fuck yeah,
um,
yeah. No, it's
outside of that, like I'm always intrigued by this was stuff 8-year old me would have been so happy about. But now as a 24-year-old, I'm just exhausted all the time of like, wow, we're having 10 Marvel things come out this year.
yeah.
Um,
Which is nice that the fact that something like Maverick, where I was like I wasn't necessarily gonna be totally hooked on because I was kind of like, oh, I thought it was just gonna be sequel bait
yeah,
for the sake of sequel bait, but it's one of those rare gems that's like they're like, no, we put
that's
it
how
in the
you do it.
work.
That's how you make a movie that's compelling and has cool characters and
Yeah, and
doesn't have to follow the standard formula of every
they put
movie.
the work in. Like they were like, we're gonna put the work in for this one. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's nice. And so it's nice that something like this is making, along with like everything all at once and stuff like that. Kind of they're kind of making a lot of money, but also getting critically acclaimed, or like not critically acclaimed, but like a lot of critical reception has been really great and really positive.
Mm-hmm.
And is audiences as well, which is like the biggest thing. I mean, critics are one thing, but it's like the audiences are like another thing.
Yeah.
At least when I think of when you see like,
I'm always looking at critic opinions and usually I align with them, but sometimes I'm like, they either need to learn to have a bit more fun or need to learn to take things more seriously. One or that as someone who identifies like as a critic in most of my life, I just try to watch things I'll enjoy, but I know that a lot of these people have to watch everything and they're not going to like some things and they're going to like others. Like all the artsy movies coming out of Venice that I'm super excited for, and Ahmari is going to be like, I'll watch a couple of them because I like that director or I like that actress or whatever.
or like
But I'm
this,
like, I will
but
watch all of them.
I'm gonna watch. I'm watching like as much as I can, but there is a thing where it's like, if the trailer is either, if the actor's in it, I'll watch it, or like if the trailer's intriguing enough, or I like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm hearing great things about this director and stuff, then by all means and stuff. Or if it looks really gorgeous, or it looks like it, I'm compelled, and I'll go and see it. But I'm more picky when it comes to like, actually,
Artsy.
I'm picking on every film actually. I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
gonna be real for a second, I'm picking on everything, and I'm glad Maverick was the case where I was like, no, I'm just having a lot of fun, and this is just a damn great movie, honestly, and a damn great
Me too.
time.
Really enjoyed it.